Marvin Harrison Jr. has zero pressure on him to produce in 2024. What do I mean? Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter, Clancy's Corner _. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Been hosting this podcast since 2017. Been in sports radio in Phoenix since 2011. Thank you for being part of this sector of my journey every day. Everydayers, love you. Thanks for being around, whether you started listening a month ago, a year ago, or going on 8 seasons ago. Thank you. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Yesterday, I discussed veteran offensive X factors, and there were 3 of them. They had very different reasons why they were going to be X factors for 2024. Check that out after watching this, obviously, as we're going to pivot towards rookies. The rookie X factors. If you're watching on YouTube, you see on the overlay on the right the 3 names. I'll be discussing Marvin Harrison Jr., Isaiah Adams, and Trey Benson. 3 players, 3 very important roles for the team moving forward, and they're X factors in very different ways. Kicking off with Marvin Harrison Jr., he's got no pressure on him in 2024. Well, how is that possible? He's the 4th overall pick. The Cardinals haven't had a wide receiver 1 since Larry Fitzgerald. The wide receiver room last year was terrible. They relied on Trey McBride and running the ball too much. Why would Marvin Harrison Jr. not have any pressure? Are you coddling him because his dad is a Hall of Fame wide receiver who won a Super Bowl? Is this a built-in excuse to, allow Kyler Murray maybe not to play at an elite level again because he's got a rookie as his wide receiver 1? No to all of those. Marvin Harrison Jr. has no actual pressure on him to produce in 2024 because the Cardinals are going to be a run-first team. They've got an ascending up into potentially a top 5 tight end in Trey McBride. And they've got Kyler Murray. They've got veteran receivers in Zay Jones and Greg Dortch, who are both reliable guys where they've played. Greg Dortch, when he's gotten the opportunity, has been nothing but reliable. I like the Dortch so much more than people calling Marvin Harrison Jr. Maserati Marv. No, thank you. Not on this show or any other show under the Locked On Arizona Cardinals umbrella. I'll tell you that much. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the 3rd option in this offense as it currently sits. So the X factor for him is any real positive momentum is a win for this team. And it's built into what people expect him to be. So that's a very low bar. And it's not setting expectations low to be super excited in week 10 when he's already got 800 yards receiving and 10 touchdowns. That's not this. This isn't reverse psychology. This isn't anything but understanding that James Conner is the most offensive player not named Kyler Murray. He's the most important one. And he has been since he got here, over DeAndre Hopkins, over everybody else. The Cardinals' offense goes as James Conner goes. Whether that's scheme, Cliff Kingsbury not knowing what he's doing, Kyler Murray not playing well from times, whatever it is, James Conner's been the most important guy. So he's the first option, especially with the elevated offensive line talent. Trey McBride is the 2nd option. And this could definitely shift if Marvin Harrison Jr. comes out of the gates, like a lightning rod. But Trey McBride is the 2nd option. Many teams have 2 bona fide stars on the offensive side of the ball outside of quarterback. Some don't. Cardinals do. So when you look at Marvin Harrison Jr. and you look at the, question marks in the wide receiver room, especially after last season, it's like, well, take Marvin Harrison Jr. off this team, and you've got Martin just as an exercise. And you've got Michael Wilson, you've got Zay Jones, you've got Greg Dortch. Not great. They probably would have brought in, another wide receiver just for an exercise in a vacuum. Well, Cardinals are going to have to run the ball, run play action a bunch, rely on Kyler Murray, and feature Trey McBride. That's going to happen anyways, with Marvin Harrison Jr. on the roster or not. So the fact that he is good for the Cardinals, and also if he has if he struggles during the first 2 months of this season, and the Cardinals are still in contention, I wouldn't be surprised. If he thrives right away in Drew Petzing's offense, I wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals went 5-3 in their first 8 games, regardless of the murderer's row of the teams that they're playing against. So when you say X factor for Marvin Harrison Jr., and I say that he doesn't have any pressure on him in 2024 to produce, what I mean by that is he can play his game without anybody breathing down his neck. If the Cardinals moved off from James Conner this offseason, or if Trey McBride didn't amount to much, and Marvin Harrison Jr. came in and they're like, all right, you're going to get 15 targets a game. Let's see what you got, kid. You are the offense. This isn't that. And that, oddly enough, is how young players learn the game the right way and can grow and mature in a natural and organic fashion, instead of being Marco Wilson thrust into the cornerback role, starting pretty much from day one when he didn't have the skill set yet to be able to do that at an NFL level. It's completely different. And I use the Marco Wilson role, even though it's on the defense, it's the same. It was kind of Michael Floyd-ish a little bit, but Michael Floyd was never looked at, even though he was taken highly, he was never looked at as the talent of Marvin Harrison Jr. So when you look at Marvin Harrison Jr., he's probably going to thrive right away. More likely than not, he will. And if he doesn't right away, the Cardinals have contingency plans because there's 2 options that are ahead of him right now. He hasn't played it down yet in the NFL. Trey McBride has. James Conner's played a whole bunch. You run the rock. You run play action. You rely on Kyler Murray to elevate other skill position players. And you stay in contention in games. So when I say that Marvin Harrison Jr. is an X factor, usually X factor means there's some sort of pressure to produce, and you're kind of a swing vote on if the Cardinals' offense is going to be great, going to be bad, or going to be somewhere in the middle. Not with him. This is the perfect time. This is the perfect situation, believe it or not. This is the perfect leadership structure for Marvin Harrison Jr. to be able to come in and play his game. Learn, grow, wow people, and not have to jump 10 steps, too quickly because the team's relying on him to produce. Sure, they need him to produce to win, but if he doesn't, all they do is they fall back on their first 2 options. And I feel like that's a fantastic, perfect situation for a potentially all-world wide receiver to come into. I think it's perfect. No sweat, play your game, learn the NFL game, and then thrive. We just don't know if it's going to be week 1 where he's just ready to rock. Maybe it's week 10 or week 11. Regardless of when it happens, the Cardinals have their plan in place already, and he's fitting into it instead of the Cardinals building everything else around him. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. X factor number 2, very, very pivotal. This is a different definition of X factor. Isaiah Adams, guard out of Illinois. What is he going to bring? And is he going to be that swing between above average offensive line and below average offensive line? I'll discuss it next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. And eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. 122 million. You know how many that is? And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Locked On Cardinals. What's up? Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals. Hit that subscribe button, man. Turn notifications on. It's an interesting dynamic between rookies and veterans. Starting next week, Monday and Tuesday, I will do the defensive side of the ball. Veteran X factors, rookie X factors, Monday and Tuesday of next week. So stay locked for that. Are you getting sick and tired of hearing a bunch of screaming on ESPN or Fox Sports all day? Well, we have an alternative. Switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 news sports streaming program, sports streaming channel, if I can speak, program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Can't miss analysis, opinions, news. We got it covered. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team. That's right. Every day. Everydayers, thank you. Thanks for hanging out. This is your first listen to Locked On Cardinals. Thank you. I'm sorry I'm not better looking. I'd appreciate you tuning in, or you can just listen. That'd probably be the best option there. Marvin Harrison Jr. has zero pressure on him, and it's a fantastic thing. Isaiah Adams, mid-round pick, Illinois. The left guard position. Maybe if you weren't watching that closely last year, you're kind of watching the whole game, and which is great. That's what I'm here for. The left guard position may have been the weakest position of all positions in the history of positions for the Cardinals last year. Elijah Wilkerson, he couldn't get it done. He played injured. He played through injury. It's just, it's something that was a definite need. And Monty Ossenfort, like he seems to do at this point, filled that with the draft pick there. Okay. Zay Adams, he was one of the 4 third-round picks the Cardinals had. And he's a guy who is going to be potentially the biggest rookie X factor on the offensive side of the ball. Okay, so lest we forget, John Gaines, who is a swing guard center, who the Cardinals drafted, I believe, in the 4th round 2 years ago, had a season-ending injury before the season started. We'll see where he is in the mix. The Cardinals may already have their guy, and you can have Isaiah Adams maybe back him up. It depends. There's a lot of moving parts to it. We'll find a lot, during July and August as we really start to see this team and roster mold into shape. But the Cardinals were able to run the ball incredibly effectively last year with a well below average left side of the offensive line. Okay, so Monty Ossenfort has rectified that, bringing in Jonah Williams, moving him to the right, Paris Johnson Jr. on the left, and they need to figure out that left guard role. So if Isaiah Adams does become a plug-and-play guy at left guard, and he's got Jalti Froholt. I mispronounced Jalti's name. My buddy Bo Brock gave me a ration for that. He's got a veteran center to be able to help him, which is something that's gonna benefit him, especially with the learning curve being so steep early on. But if Isaiah Adams can plug in at left guard and become a 68 on the Pro Football Focus grade scale, the Cardinals' offensive line is going to be solidified as the best one they've had in a decade. Imagine Kyler Murray behind a solid offensive line, not one that Rodney Hudson can, keep the pocket deep enough, but the left and right guard were terrible. I mean, Justin Pugh battled many injuries when he played on the left side. The right guard position was terrible before Will Hernandez came over. Will Hernandez had a so-so first year here, and then he's really, really become strong at the right guard position. I think that was with an upgrade with Paris Johnson Jr. on the right side and Froholt coming in and playing center. They solidified the right side of the line. If Isaiah Adams could come in as a 3rd-round rookie and play left guard for this team, everything changes. Picture this. The left side of the offensive line is shown up, solidified. That means Kyler Murray's going to have more time in the pocket. James Conner's going to have more holes in the middle of the defense to run up the gut. Play action is going to be more effective. It's going to give wide receivers more time to get open. Everything changes. And I know I'm sorry that's very, I'm writing that in crayon for you. It's like, well, obviously. But the Cardinals haven't had that. The line that I've used more than most of my lines here on Locked On Cardinals is the best offensive lineman the Arizona Cardinals have is Kyler Murray's legs. That's what it was. It's starting to not become that anymore. Imagine having a solid offensive line. Imagine that. If Isaiah Adams jumps in, this is a sway X factor, one or the other. If he's not the answer right away, that's fine for 2024. But the Cardinals are still going to have to figure it out. This isn't he's got to produce. If he starts at left guard, he's got to produce or boot him. No. But for 2024 specifically, he could be the piece that will sway the Cardinals to have an above-average offensive line where they can thrive with the position players they have, or still having a glaring need at left guard, having Elijah Wilkerson, who's still, I believe, atop the depth chart at this point very early. It's not an ideal situation. And he definitely has more pressure than Marvin Harrison Jr. does in 2024. It sounds off. It sounds like, tectonic plates coming together and like pushing up. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. It does. I think. If Isaiah Adams comes in and gets to start week 1, and he's able to be a B-/C+ left guard, that's all you need. He doesn't have to be all pro. He doesn't have to be Zach Martin. He doesn't have to be. He has to be good enough. And that would tip the scales for the Cardinals in such a positive direction we haven't seen in a decade. And if he's not, he's rookie. He'll learn. He'll grow. He'll get better. But they'll have a problem immediately right away. They'll have a problem for 2024. And again, we're starting very early. We're still in voluntary minicamp times. So with this and him, the X factor-ness of Isaiah Adams is his ability to turn this Arizona Cardinals offensive line from an average one to a well above average one pretty damn quickly, which unlocks everything for this offense that isn't unlocked already. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Speaking of offense, speaking of skill position players, it's going to be a fun one next. Trey Benson. Why is he an X factor? Next, Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Woo! This is, I think, the most fun one for me. And I'm going to discuss it here in a minute. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals. Please, of course, hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on. If you'd like to go leave a review wherever you get your podcasts, I mentioned from time to time, I pissed off some opposing teams' fans. From time to time, they just jettisoned my rating. If you'd like to leave a review, cool. You know that I'm just happy that you're here and continuing on this journey with me. 2024 is going to be bonkers. It's going to be, as Dane Cook used to say, it's going to be banana sandwich. It's going to be insane. Marvin Harrison Jr., zero pressure. Isaiah Adams could tip the scale of this offense. Sure, in his own way at left guard. And Trey Benson. Please, again, go after this, go listen to yesterday's show. I talked a lot about James Conner in the first segment, and Trey Benson plays hand in hand with James Conner's beginning of pivot into the LeGarrette Blount role. This has been my grand opus for James Conner. It's not time yet. He's still an RB1. He's still going to eat. He's still going to get the line shares of the carries. But you start like the beginning of an eclipse, just the beginning of one, where if Trey Benson can produce and you can utilize next year, the year after, James Conner, which I did a show earlier this week that, first of all, respect James Conner, respect Budda Baker, and extend both of them. But what are we doing here? Shouldn't even be a question. Oh, he's 29. Who cares? Have you seen how he's produced since he's been here? Trey Benson, the X factor, is going to be the catalyst to be able to get James Conner to inevitably be that 40% touch running back. James Conner can play till he's 35, touching the ball 40% of the time. You give him the ball inside the 10, you give him the ball in third and short, you use him in the pass game. The dude's an absolute Adonis who is so fleet of foot. He runs over people. It's like a linebacker. He looks like he's 6'5". I don't know how he's not 6'5". Look at him in the backfield. I know Kyler Murray's 5'10", 5'11". James Conner looks like he's 6'5", but he's not. I think he's only 6 feet. Trey Benson coming in, he's a burner. His leg, he shattered everything in his leg. I think his rookie year, and then he ended up at Florida State, and the dude absolutely balled out last year. This is my selfishly my favorite pick of Monty Osifo. It's like, ooh, yes. The Cardinals are in a position to be able to draft a running back and have it make sense. Yippee! So with Trey Benson, he comes in, okay? James Conner's going to touch the ball 70% of the time, 65%, 70%. If Trey Benson can be the best parts of Amari DeMarcado, Michael Carter, all wrapped into one, the Cardinals will have this juice that they haven't had since the Chris Johnson, David Johnson era. People forget Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson, I think, was leading the league in rushing when he got hurt that year, and then David Johnson took over and took the world by storm. If Trey Benson can come in and produce, he can come in and be effective. This isn't like, I call it I don't, but I am now, the Saquon Barkley effect, where in college, Saquon Barkley averaged many games he averaged under 4 yards a carry, but then he would have that 80-yard run that would completely tip the scales on his yards per carry and everything like that. Trey Benson, if he averages 4.2, 4.3 yards per carry and has that breakaway speed, but isn't just two juke gone guy, he can actually break tackles, he can read defenses, things like that. This dude is, again, going to be the catalyst to be able to extend James Conner's career, not take over. Like some people think that it's just, Trey Benson had 500 yards rushing last year and 6 touchdowns. Oh, bye, James Conner. We got our guy. It's such a common fallacy. 31 other teams would sign James Conner today. And it's not 32 because the Cardinals are the 30s. 32nd, 31 plus 1. Trey Benson's, the definition of him for X factor is there are expectations for him to produce because the Cardinals are going to be a run first team. And if you have a guy who can touch the ball 10 times a game, 7 rushes, 3 catches, something like that, have James Conner touch the ball 20 times a game, 15 rushes, 5 catches, 18, 20 times a game. What that does is, this is a two-pronged thing. First, he's an X factor because it'll allow James Conner to not have to carry all of it, not have to carry the brunt. What you want to do is see them cohabitating, not just, James Conner misses a game and Trey Benson gets all the carries. Let's hope that James Conner plays 17 weeks. But you want to see them produce together. You want to see them be a 1-2 punch. And if they do become that, it's going to be hell for opposing defensive coordinators. Do you stack 8 and do single coverage on Marvin Harrison Jr. and Greg Dortch and Trey McBride? Do you have a lighter box and let James Conner and Trey Benson run all over you? The Cardinals have tools. They have weapons. And Trey Benson, if he can be that guy, he doesn't have to be all-world. He doesn't have to be a Pro Bowler. He doesn't have to win Rookie of the Year. Even if he rushes for 400 or 500 yards on the season, what is that? It's 30 a game, 35 a game. This is it. This is the 2023 Arizona Cardinals proof of concept. That's Trey Benson for 2024. Doesn't have to be the total yards gained. It doesn't have to be the touchdown scored. It has to be yards per carry. It has to be big plays. It has to be, can he run over corners? That's what you're looking for in 2024. A dude that, it's funny how Marvin Harrison Jr. is zero pressure, in my opinion. And obviously everybody's got pressure. Their employees are getting paid to do their job, but he doesn't have to carry the offense. Isaiah Adams may have to be that cog at left guard to be able to elevate the talent level on the offensive line. Trey Benson's right in the middle. While if he wasn't on the team, the running game would be fine. They'd be fine. Michael Carter, Amari Mercado, DJ Dallas, it's plenty of guys to touch 15 times and have James Conner touch the ball 20. But because he's here, it not only will take pressure off James Conner to have to, carry the brunt of the touches, but the biggest part of Trey Benson's 2024 and why he's in this show as an X factor is because if he produces at a consistent and efficient level, you could almost remove Kyler Murray from having to run the ball with design runs, which would be the chef's kiss, Xanadu, Shangri-La, whatever heaven you want to talk about. That is the most heavenly of situations. It's fun to watch Kyler Murray run the ball. It's great to do an RPO on 1st and goal from the 3 and completely fake out opposing defenses. That's never going to leave. But having to have him run the ball 8, 9, 10 times a game to keep the offense moving forward, hopefully midway through the season, we could say long are the days that the Cardinals have been removed from having to rely on Kyler Murray's legs to be able to move the ball down the field. Now, sure, during breakdown plays, I call it in the gray area where it's like, kind of jockeying for a position, kind of seeing what the defense is giving. He kind of just takes off and slides, takes off, goes out of bounds, takes off, and does that like tumble roll. It's the funniest thing. Like baseball players, they have the sexiest slides. You can tell quarterbacks who have played baseball before. Kyler Murray was drafted in the top 10, the Major League Baseball draft, and he can't slide. Or he chooses not to, and he just kind of tumbles. It's funny. That doesn't matter. Anyways, that was just a squirrel moment for me. Thank you for being there for me with that. If Trey McBride can produce in 2024, you could almost remove Kyler Murray from having to run the ball at all. Imagine this. The 2024 version of the Arizona Cardinals offense. Do you remember last year how many times Josh Dobbs juked the hell out of opposing defenses with an RPO that he decided to keep? It was a design run the whole time for the quarterback. But you run, the fake handoff and gone. He had 240-plus large chunk yards. One was for touchdown. I can't remember if it was for both. But imagine that with Kyler Murray. Having that in your bag as an ace up your sleeve and not having to utilize it on purpose when everybody knows it's coming, that is a massive shift in offensive theory. And Trey Benson will play a huge role, regardless if there's pressure on him to produce or not, will play a huge role in determining how much Kyler Murray has to run the ball in 2024. You want to keep Kyler Murray's legs behind the line of scrimmage as much as humanly possible. It opens up Pandora's box to be able to juke the hell out of opposing defenses with Kyler Murray running the ball. Imagine having that catch people by surprise because you never do it. That's what Trey Benson can provide. Marvin Harrison Jr., no pressure. Isaiah Adams, a little bit of pressure could really tip the scales for the offensive line one way or the other. And Trey Benson, right in the middle, to be able to unlock James Conner's inner LeGarrette Blount and Kyler Murray's inner Jared Goff, not having to run the ball. Regardless of outcome, 2024 is going to be an absolute blast. Thanks for hanging with me. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you Monday.